Welcome to Comic Shop News. I'm Dan, and today we're continuing the series review of Friday the 13th with Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter. One of the things about this movie is that if you ask most Friday the 13th fans, this will be the one they always go to as their number one in their rankings. Also, this has probably one of the better chemistry with the cast. In particular, Crispin Glover and Lawrence Monason playing Teddy Bear and Jimmy. They just have a great bromance, and if you watch the Crystal Lake Memories, a lot of the lines they kind of came up with on their own. Ted White, I think, is one of the most menacing of the Jason actors. He moved kind of like a cat looking for its prey. He moved quick instead of lumbering. Then you had Corey Feldman as Tommy. He was basically kind of like a spirit animal for Tom Savini with, making his masks. Where the hell he got these materials to make these masks living out in the middle of the fucking woods is kind of interesting. As a kid, I just thought Tommy was the coolest, and then he grew up to be Corey Feldman. And we all know where that went. Even the hero of the movie, kind of, who, didn't do that well as a hero. Rob, the way they tied it into that his sister was Sandra from Part 2. All kind of interesting, and again, Tom Savini came back to kill his monster, which, was it really his monster since, he didn't even think Jason should appear at the end of Part 1. Whole other story. Again, Crystal Lake Memories will have a lot more about this movie if you're interested in finding out some of the behind-the-scenes stuff. There was some strife on set. Ted White couldn't stand Corey Feldman, called him a brat, and, Corey Feldman in the interview said that, Ted White didn't know how to behave around children, wasn't used to it. Ted White also had a problem with the way one of the actresses was treated. She actually had a hypothermia from being out in the cold water during one of the scenes, and threatened to walk off the picture at one point. So there was some strife, and of course, Siskel and Ebert had problems with this entire series, and this is one of the ones where they just went to town in their At the Movies review, just ripping it apart. So start out the movie, and the police and ambulances are at the Higgins Haven and getting the bodies. They take Jason and bring his body to the morgue, and we meet the spiritual successor to Bud from Halloween 2, and his name is Axel, and he's trying to get on with one of the nurses while Jason's body is sitting there in the morgue, like right near them. And he's starting to get it on, then Jason's hand falls and freaks her out. And Axel goes on one of the great rants of, I'm going to include the clip, but, holy Jesus, goddamn!
Jesus Christmas! Holy Jesus, goddamn! Holy Jesus, jumping Christmas shit!
You better get that sucker in the icebox! I must be nuts!
Jason awakens from maybe lust, maybe, he got a good nap in after getting an axe to the head, and kills Axel and the nurse. Starts making his way to Crystal Lake, and we start meeting Teddy, Jimmy, Sarah, and the other cast of students partying at a cabin. And Jimmy and Teddy are having a discussion about how Jimmy broke up with Betty, and Teddy's putting in his computer, and he tells Jimmy that he is a dead fuck, and that's why. We also meet Tommy, his sister Trish, and their mom. They're in the cabin next to where the kids are going to be partying. And Tommy, we see one of his masks. He's playing Zaxxon. For all the millennials, that is a game that was on Atari and Commodore 64 back in the day. And we get more and more into... They actually spend time on character development on this one, which is kind of interesting because the other ones you really didn't get a whole lot. I mean, I actually kind of challenged that there was actually a script. And we also, as the kids come in, they're going to the lake. We meet the Double Mint twins that are there. I don't even bother remembering their names. Everybody's game to party. They're skinny dipping. Trish and Tommy with their dog Gordon see them, and Trish takes him away. Their car starts to die, and we meet Rob hiking to Crystal Lake, who manages to jumpstart their car with a knife. I'm not sure how that really works, but okay, that's good to go. Trish is just smitten with him, and there's one of these interesting parts in the movie that Tommy's bringing Rob in to see his room and all his props that he's built, and the mom's just like, "Hey, who's that my little son's dragging up to his room?" It's always one of those weird parts. So as the movie goes on, Jason's kind of starting to get closer and closer, and there's a scene that I like where Rob's got his tent with all his Jason stuff, information, and there's a noise. He leaves his tent, and then his gun's broken and everything else in his tent. So Jason's still in that malicious, gonna fuck with people mode. And now the kids are partying at the house, and we are treated to one of the greatest moments in film history, which is Crispin Glover doing the dead fuck dance. The story is that he was actually dancing to Back in Black by AC/DC. Instead, we get this song by Lion. I think it's Love Is a Lie. And it's one of the greatest songs ever, especially all I can do is think of this dance that Crispin Glover does. I'm going to add the clip in. And basically he's doing his spaz dance, and then Paul goes and, says, "Let me put on something," puts on Frank Sinatra, and the slow dancing starts. And Paul's girlfriend gets pissed off and leaves, and she heads over to the lake. Paul has his turn of, oh, I'm a dick, I need to go make things right with her, and leaves one of the twins. And one of them comes over to Jimmy and asks him if he wants to dance. Of course, Lauren, he's just like, "Yeah, I pulled out my best moves, to hell with it, let's do this." And he manages to score. At the lake, the Paul's girlfriend, she ends up getting killed by Jason in the boat, in the little inflatable boat that's out in the lake. She gets run through, And then Paul comes out and starts to go out there and has one of the most painful deaths I've seen. He basically gets speared in the dick and then lifted and then thrown in the air by Jason. The virgin girl starts to hook up with the guy who is in the Powers of Matthew Starr. I can't remember the name of his character in this movie, and I'm kind of sad about that. They hook up. They're in the shower, and they shower together. She leaves and doing her hair, and he's still in the shower. And this is where that Ted White brutality comes in, where he shoves his hand through the shower and crushes the kid's face into the wall. Sarah gets pulled out a window, and I think she gets pulled out the window. Oh wait, no, the twin gets pulled out the window. One of the other twins is run through outside after getting it on with Jimmy, and then he comes down, shows Teddy her panties, and basically giving him shit about who's the dead fuck. So Jimmy wants to have a celebration with his boyfriend Ted, and wants to get a bottle of wine. He's screaming for a corkscrew. Hey, Ted, where's the corkscrew? Hey, Ted. And then he gets a corkscrew through his hand and then a hatchet into his face, a cleaver.
Hey! Ted! Ted! Hey, Ted, where the hell's the corkscrew?
Ted has been watching stag movies, and he is stabbed through. So the house is pretty much at this point cleaned out of kids. All the power is out in both houses. Rob and Trish go to investigate. Tommy stays at the house. Their mother is nowhere to be found. And Trish and Rob are kind of investigating, and Rob goes down the cellar and sees something, and he goes after Jason, and they're tangling down there, and then you just start hearing him yell, "Oh God, he's killing me! He's killing me! Oh God!" So Trish is going to run away, and then she stops and kind of starts to walk back down the stairs. Jason grabs her leg. Cat and mouse game starts with them. She runs to the house, to the other cabin, and tells Tommy, stay away from the windows, board them up, lock everything. Rob's body gets thrown through the window. Ted White as Jason goes through one of the windows and pulls Tommy, and then she starts smacking him with a hammer and then uses the claw onto Jason's neck. And honestly, some of this stuff is good. There's a scene that does not make sense in this movie where the dog just randomly jumps through the fucking window. Trish at another point jumps through a window and constantly running around. She tells Tommy to leave, and of course the dumb fucking kid doesn't. He instead, Jason's attacking Trish, grabs the clippings that Rob had of Jason and starts shaving his head, and then doing effects to make himself look like Jason, to kind of do the head games that Ginny did in part 2 to Jason, where he shows up looking like Jason in the pictures, saying Jason, and Jason's kind of giving him the dumb look. And he was just about ready to kill Trish when that happens, and he gets his mask smacked off with the machete, and we see Jason's actual face, and it's even more deformed than from part 3. And we get one of the better kills to Jason, where he gets hit with the machete in the side of the head. It sticks, and as he's hitting the ground, it slides down his head. And Tommy goes and starts hugging Trish, and at the corner of his eye, he sees the hands start to move. So he grabs the machete, and we get a scene that will audio-wise get played through part 5 a lot, where it's, die, die, Tommy, die, die, Tommy, and it keeps getting played, and it jump cuts to they're in the hospital, and Tommy goes in to see Trish, and they hug, and then you see just this devious look in his eyes, like kind of like they're setting up like the evil's taken over him, that he's gonna be Jason, and it might have been a thought at one time. Out of all the Friday the 13th, this definitely is the best one. I thought Ted White was one of the better Jasons, even though he was kind of embarrassed about doing it. He brought his own flavor to it. And there's just something about the cast in this that just worked, where the other ones, the cast wasn't very likable. Like, you always had like one character you liked, but this one, a good chunk of them you actually grew to like and cared about when they died, and that was probably the thing that mattered most. Of course, Tom Savini's effects were great with the kills. I'd say this is probably an 8 out of 10. Again, it moves fast. It moves real fast, and not a lot of dead air in it. Crispin Glover, just the madness of him is fantastic. Like, you just can't stop watching. The only thing that ever bothered me is there's like 1 or 2 characters that I honestly didn't care about. But it wasn't a game changer. The mother kind of was a throwaway character also of the Jarvis family. But definitely this is one that every horror fan should have in their collection. Definitely if you're a Friday the 13th fan, because, you know, buying that Blu-ray box set right now, if you didn't buy it when it first came out, it's about $400, so probably not going to just randomly buy that. With that being said, I want to thank everybody for joining me, and yes, I am very, very off the pace that I wanted to do after the hurricane and my work schedule. Yeah, life kind of got in the way of me getting all 13 done by the 13th, but I'm going to try my best. Thank you. I hopefully will knock out 2 to 3 more tomorrow. Comment, share, like, subscribe, and take care. Bye.